Well, today we're going to talk about number one picks. I think in the NBA and in basketball, there's really nothing like the number one pick. And I think for fans who get the number one pick, it's obviously probably the best chance of getting a franchise-altering player.
You would think.
You remember those times. You remember the draft. But I would argue that the season before, the process of getting that number one pick being so bad, or being lucky enough to have a trade that gets you that, is an experience. And we're going to go back. We're going to look at the modern NBA. So from Magic Johnson in 1979 up until now.
Modern for your young ass.
Modern, the 3-point line. That's just what they call it. So respect to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, respect to Bill Walton, respect to the Big O.
They did you dirty.
My bad.
Disrespect. Young
That's
fella
on
did
me.
you dirty. Young fella did you dirty.
We're going to look at the modern NBA and ask ourselves who were the five best number one picks of all time. And I'm not talking about who was the best player, who had the best career, for the team that drafted them and what that player did for that franchise. That's how we're going to quantify that. Who was the best number one pick that did the most for the franchise that drafted them? Who were the five best? And then we're going to look at those five specific instances and learn more about the process of how those teams secured the number one pick.
Because it's a process.
It's a process, and it's an eventful process. So we're going to break down. So we each independently came up with our list of five. Can we agree that 4 out of the 5 are pretty lockstep and non-debatable?
We can. As far as on the forgotten season side, people like to argue, Dylan. Whichever 5 we put up here is going to be misconstrued and taken. No, I'm just kidding. We trust our forgotten seasons.
It will be.
Yeah. But we trust our forgotten seasons fan base. We know this is a higher echelon of basketball thinking. So yeah, but to each his own. It's going to be our 5.
So let's start from number one. So let's start from who we think the best was. What is your number one first overall pick in the modern NBA?
My overall number one pick goes to. It has to be my number one pick. We can't do it in any particular order. It has to be a number one pick. It has to be my top guy, number one overall already. There's no build up. I just had to give straight to my number one overall guy.
No, we're gonna start with number one. Give it to him early.
That's tough. I don't care how y'all feel about it. Yeah, I don't care how you feel about it. My number one overall pick. I'm gonna have to go with the big fella because I'm going out there to Boston and kick it with him in a minute anyway. Just a couple hours here. We on the way to kick it with big fella. So I'm gonna go with Shaquille O'Neal, the number one pick. Meant a lot for the NBA during this time. There's a lot of changing of the hands. I know there's some Magic Johnson and yada yada yada. But for how I'm feeling right now, I'm gonna go with Shaquille O'Neal, like it ahead of the 11th.
All right, now finish off your list. Just go 2 to 5.
2 to 5. Give me Magic. 2. Give me Timmy. At 3. At 4. Gone. Let me dream you down. Let me dream you down at 4 because of the titles and the block shots and the whole. And then that 5th pick. That's kind of cual tú quieres. I'm going to have to go with, come on. I'm going to have to go with LeBron. He double dipped, he Shaq and got out of there, but he came back in Cleveland. Yeah, so I'm going to put LeBron.
He broke their heart once, but he did come home at night. He came home.
That's what I mean. He gotta come home. You gotta come home.
He came home.
You gotta come home. You gotta come. He was in the streets, but he came home. You gotta love the guy.
So your top 5 in order is Shaq, Magic, Tim, Hakeem, LeBron.
Yeah.
So Shaq, your number one, is the only one that I don't have in the list. That to me, I'm gonna give Shaq some deductions because he didn't even sign a second contract in Orlando. He didn't even give them a second date.
They didn't put them together. They didn't put them together.
So that's the one that I don't have. At number 1, I'm gonna go I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Tim Duncan number one. I'm
Fresh
gonna go
out the
Magic.
box, rookie year, championship, fresh out the box, number one pick. Come on now. Yeah, good pick.
Number 4, I'm gonna go LeBron, and the only reason he's not higher is because he did break up with them prematurely. He did end up back there, but
Came home.
the breakup comes with deductions. And then number 5, I'm gonna go Allen Iverson. I think what he did for he coincided with the Sixers rebrand, the black Sixers jersey, to me is up there in the most iconic snapshots of a close-up in NBA history. He gave it all, put his life on the line every night. He was playing 43 minutes a night, brought them to a finals. So I'm going to go Allen Iverson. So those are our lists. So I think we start with who we have in common, and then we'll end with the Shaq and Magic. So again, I want to break down all of these seasons. I want to examine who the tank commanders are, the players that those teams brought in for the season before. They got to sell some tickets. They got to make some highlight plays. But what they don't want to do, Jelani, they don't want to win games.
They don't. They
don't want to
win games, but you know what I mean? They got to make it look good, but at the end of the day, they can't stack them up like that, Dylan.
And so this is going to be a journey through time. We're going to learn about the history of tanking, which we heard a lot in the last 10 years, but is in no means new. The NBA actually had made some changes to prevent tanking. Some repeatable characters in these seasons that come up in different years, different decades, in different roles. Jim Paxson. Don't forget the name, Jim Paxson. He comes up twice, 20 years apart, once as a player, once as a general manager. John Lucas comes up twice. John Lucas comes up twice, once as a player, once as a coach and general manager. Sneaky coach and GM, John Lucas, for the Philadelphia 76ers briefly in the 90s. They handed John the keys and might have crashed the whip.
It happens when you got you know what I mean? When you're with the GM and the coach. A lot of people have crashed the whip like that. I'm be mad at John.
It's fine. We've all done it.
Yeah.
We've all done it. So let's start with Hakeem. Hakeem Olajuwon, number 1 pick in the 1984 draft for the Houston Rockets. Before we begin with that draft, this was actually the second consecutive year that the Rockets got the first overall pick. The year before Hakeem, they selected Ralph Sampson out of Virginia. They formed the Twin Towers with Hakeem. So rewinding a little bit, they go to the finals in 81 with Moses Malone, Calvin Murphy. And then they kind of bottom out for a little bit. Before we get there, so they get the number 1 pick in 2 consecutive years. It's happened 3 other times since then. Can you name those 3 back-to-backs? Once in the 90s. That one's easy. And then 2 more in the 2010s. Back-to-back number 1 overall picks.
Once in the 90s?
Yeah.
Back-to-back overall picks?
The one they picked and traded, and it's also a guy on your list. Adjacent.
I'm blanking like a mug.
Orlando.
Shaq?
Shaq
Penny.
and Penny. Shaq and Weber into Penny.
Shaq and Webb into Penny.
Yep. And then 2 more in the 2010s. One, the first one involves one of the players who you said was one of the worst number 1 picks ever.
I named quite a few. Anthony Bennett.
Anthony Bennett into Andrew Wiggins, who was traded for Kevin Love.
Yep.
And then we got the process Sixers, Ben Simmons.
I was going to get Ben Simmons. Yeah.
Markelle Fultz.
I did have that. Yeah, I did. I remember those 2. Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, the Magic by far, the Shaq and. Are you mad at the? Actually, we'll get to when we talk about Shaq, the Weber for Penny trade. So the Rockets get the number 1 pick in 1983. They pick Ralph Sampson. The Ralph Sampson hype, like, what are we talking about? I know he's one of the guys whose career got cut short, But in the moment, it might have been a little bit before your time. But when we talk about kind of the history and evolution of big men, what did Ralph Sampson represent?
Ralph Sampson was on that Wemby shit. You know what I mean? Could put it on the floor, could play out on the floor a little bit. Obviously, rebound, block shots, you know what I mean? Score on the block. But, Ralph Sampson was equivalent to almost like high jumper athleticism. You know what I mean? He was a little on the thinner side. He was a little bit more mobile than Biggs was used to. Could use both hands well, was a little bit more on the skill side. So I would say that's Wemby-ish. He was supposed to be the evolution of the big man who could play out on the floor a little bit, run the floor. I mean, run the floor, not just rim, from rim to rim. He can fill a lane and get out
Like
on
Wilt
the wing
shit?
and finish.
Like track star shit?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That track star, that long, that different type of muscle length development, no freaky. You know what I mean? Where it was more trackish, less more square jump hook and more, fluid body movements. You know what I mean? Kareem, dudes was into karate and the body started moving a little differently in the 70s and 80s and shit. You know what I mean? After they put the cigarettes and the Jack Daniels down, they went and, started doing yoga and that too. Yeah, they do, a little bit of that too, but you know what I mean? They put it together holistically as the big man, and the big man changed. We mentioned Bill Walton, the skills as opposed to the brute, the physicality of the big man. They started introducing the athleticism, and I think Ralph Sampson was the preview of what was to come for bigs like that.
So they get Sampson in his rookie year. He wins Rookie of the Year, but they aren't any good. And then, but before that, so Sampson's rookie year, the year before they get Hakeem, here's where we meet our first tank commander. And this one is a good one. It might be the best one. In his 16th in final season in the NBA, former champion for the Washington Bullets. Some would say he got robbed of finals MVP. He was a 12-time All-Star. 37-year-old Elvin Hayes. In his last season in the NBA, listen, this is what I mean by tank commanders. You got to get the fans to come out and get excited. Elvin Hayes trying to break the 50,000 minutes club. Nobody had ever done it. So in their last 2 games of the 1983 season, what did they do?
What you're saying is they attached his pursuit of the 50,000 point club into their mission.
Not points.
Excuse me. Yeah, because
not as cool. Minutes.
Yeah. They attached his run to the 50,000 minutes club onto part of, the storyline as to why you should come as a fan and come see the Rockets play, because Elvin Hayes is going to break the minutes record.
Bro, come see the Big E, the Bionic Man. Historic career, ending it in Houston. He's just got to play 90 more minutes, and we got 2 games left. So what do they do in their last 2 games where they're trying to lose? They had lost 7 of 8. The only other win that they had was against Portland, who's going to come up in a couple minutes. This is before the draft lottery. The picks were just basically the worst record. You did a few coin flips.
Let me guess. They played Elvin Hayes 48 minutes.
53 minutes.
Game
went into overtime. Game went into overtime. Whole game. Elvin Hayes plays 53 minutes in the second to last game. 35 minutes in the last game. Both losses. But
give me Elvin Hayes.
But the Big E cracks 50,000 minutes. What's he giving you?
What's he giving you in those 2 games?
First off, that season he played 81 games, but he played 12 minutes a night. So they weren't.
Shit, I might be able to do that right now.
So 53 minutes, he gives you 16, 17, and 11. Trip-dub.
What?
Triple-double. They
hold
lose a heartbreaker.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Is he playing the whole season, or is he just coming off cold at these last when he's coming up to the 50K club, and then those is numbers.
He's playing. He's giving you 12 a night. He's coming in. He's coming in at the end of the first quarter. gets a quick burn.
Stop playing with the Big E.
So they lose 9 out of their last 10.
Well, you can do that when you just was playing out with them dudes with them neck braces like Dennis. Like Dennis Johnson was wearing back then. No disrespect to the Big E. All due respect, I'm a big, you know what I mean? No, I mean it to the Hayes family. No disrespect. Those are great numbers from the Big E, especially considering what's going on and how they try to use the big homie. But you know what I mean? I take that back. Well, no disrespect. But the game was different back then.
The game was different back then, but the Bionic Man, he hit the 50,000 minutes. He retires the all-time leader in minutes played since it's been broken. But
I ain't got 50K of it. I'm gonna shut my ass up.
The story gets even better. Maybe. So okay, they're in prime position. It's just down to a coin flip. It's down to Houston and the Portland Trailblazers. Keep this inkling in your ear for later. Who's the all-star player in the Portland Trailblazers? It's Jim Paxson, 2-time all-star. So
Jim Paxson is a 2-time all-star. Don't forget about that on the Blazers.
Don't forget that. Don't forget about that for later.
Back in the video game too, Jim Paxson was cracking on the Trailblazers. Y'all don't remember that. So I'm gonna date myself. Go ahead.
So listen, this is the last draft lottery that was settled by coin flip. They introduced the lottery the next year. So there's a coin flip. It's down to Houston and Portland. We've got David Stern from the NBA, new commissioner. Larry Weinberg, owner of the Blazers. Bill Fitch, head coach of the Rockets.
Bill Fitch lost a lot of games. Coached a lot of people, lost a lot of games.
So it's down to 2. And both teams had expressed a desire to make the decisive call, heads or tails. So basically they each wanted to call it. So Stern had to do 2 flips. He had to do the flip to choose who gets to make the call. So he does that, and it was won by the Blazers and Weinberg. Weinberg calls his shot for the decisive coin flip, calls tails. If you're in that situation, are you letting the other guy make his call, or do you want to go out swinging? If your life is on the line for a heads or tails, are you choosing your fate, or are you letting the devil choose your fate?
Damn, it's different type of devils out here, man. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna have to choose my own fate.
And what are you going, heads or tails, or is it whatever speaks to you in that specific?
It's whatever moment? I speak. I'm not
right.
I'm always tail guy. I guess it has to speak to me. Then you hit it on the head.
So Weinberg goes tails, but it comes up heads. Tried to listen to himself, got burned. Bill Fitch and the Rockets get the number 1 pick, and they commit on the spot to Hakeem. They pass the mic over to Weinberg. He says, we like that guy Sam Bowie out of Kentucky. Think we're going to take him number 2. And that's how it goes. The Blazers get their guy, Hakeem Olajuwon. They form the Twin Towers with Ralph Sampson. The Blazers and Jim Paxson get Sam Bowie. And then the Bulls get Michael Jordan. Head coach of the Mavericks, Dick Motta, says, I've said that the Rockets are the only team that can legitimately challenge the Lakers, your team, for the Western Conference title this season. That front line, when history is written, when they've grown up, might be the best ever assembled on one team. Ever. Sampson and Olajuwon. Olajuwon's going to play the 5. Sampson's going to play the 4. Motta was right. They didn't contend in their first year, in Hakeem's rookie year. But 1986, they do play the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals, and they beat them. Hakeem made Kareem. That was, that's some elder abuse, what Hakeem was doing to old Kareem. And they make the finals. They lose to Boston in the 1986 finals. But then after that, Sampson hurts his knee, tears his knee the next season. And the crack cocaine got to the Houston Rockets.
The crack cocaine?
Hey, I don't think
crack wasn't out then. Was it just a powder?
Yeah, no, they were freebasing it.
That's when they were calling it freebase. It hadn't gotten to crack yet. That's when they were freebase. Right. Yeah.
So Lewis Lloyd and Mitchell Wiggins get banned from the NBA for repeated
putting that shit in the aluminum foil. FOH.
Pretty much. And another guy that comes up later, John Lucas, was also on that 86 team, and his challenges with the nose candy are well documented.
Challenges. We're not going to do that here. I love Coach Lou. He looked out for me, you know what I mean? He had his challenges. You got to go on the internet. That's that man's business. Hell of a tennis player as well. Was also like the number one ranked tennis player in the world, or at his age group or something, as the number one pick. Yeah. Shout out
Good
Coach
mustache, too. Kind of
Great
on the
mustache.
like the Steve Harvey
Before
potato
Steve.
head.
Yeah,
Mr. Potato Head. Yeah, they could make a set together.
And one thing
go.
thing about those Houston teams, man, I want to talk about is like, remember, Houston is at the forefront of basketball right now because those 5 Slamma Jamma teams, you know what I mean, are cracking, you know what I mean? So they're no stranger to NCAA basketball. So Ralph Sampson played a large hand in the NCAA tournament during those times, and them getting Dream with the number one pick while he's styling, no profiling, and fly jamma. That's a hell of a come up for H-Town, baby.
Yeah, it is. And just lastly, putting a bow on it. So Sampson is off the team basically a year after he tears up his knee. And then we all know Hakeem stays there, wins 2 titles in 94 and 95, wins an MVP, and cements himself as the best player in Rockets history. Hands
So it
down,
only
right?
took 2 years for him to get Ralph up out of there, basically.
He tore his knee. I don't know. I mean, there's rumors. I mean, you put together the Twin Towers, but are they really down with being 1A and 1B? Or that was a story. All right. So that's the dream. Let's go now to Tim Duncan. Fall deserves its own wardrobe. You need warmth that's still breathable. And that starchy and stiff workwear just doesn't cut it, especially if you're like me and you're always on the move. The key for fall is looking good without having to think about it. And that's exactly why we've partnered with Rhone. Seasons change, we change, and it's time for men's closets to change too. Rhone's commuter collection is the most comfortable, breathable, and truly versatile set of products known to man. Rhone has premium pieces to elevate every occasion. We're talking about the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos, and blazers, all boosted with functional performance properties. I'm actually hopping on a flight later today, and you already know that I'm strapped with the Rhone commuter collection. Each piece in Rhone's commuter collection is made to coordinate and layer for an instantly elevated look. The collection also features wrinkle release technology and is 100% machine washable. Looking good is that easy. Building mental fitness is vital to everyone's success, on and off the court. That's why Rhone is proud to partner with 5-time NBA All-Star Kevin Love and the Kevin Love Fund. Together, they're opening up discussions and enabling action around mind health. Head to Rhone.com/smoke and use promo code SMOKE to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/smoke and use code SMOKE. It's time to embody your most confident self.
You know you want those Wingstop boneless wings. With the boneless meal deal from Wingstop, you get 20 boneless wings, 4 delicious flavors, an order of large fries for $16.99. Mango habanero, OG hot, and my favorite, lemon pepper. What are y'all waiting on? More wings, more flavor, more bang for your buck. The boneless meal deal from Wingstop. Order now at wingstop.com.
1997. I would argue probably the most calculated tank job ever in terms of they were really good. You know, remember, without Timmy and with David, they were still going to the playoffs. They were still winning 60 games. And the main character in this story has to be Greg Popovich, who, so let's start in 1995. The Spurs, general manager Greg Popovich, head coach Bob Hill, star player David Robinson, who they picked number one.
Don't forget that. Don't forget about
David?
that. A lot of people forget about that Bob Hill tenure, and that Pop came up out of the GM spot. See, that's modern basketball. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So listen. So they have they got the scoring champion. They have the MVP in David Robinson. They have the rebounding champion Dennis Rodman. They've got Sean Elliott. They've got Avery Bradley.
This is after the 73-point game season. MVP David Robinson.
Yeah, when
this
he got
is after the
by
dream.
Hakeem.
Yeah.
So 1995, they were favorites to win it all. This is, there's no Jordan in the league. They've got the MVP. They're favored to win it. They get humiliated by the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. Dream goes crazy. Thought it should have been his MVP. He goes crazy. Rodman melts down. He's taking his shoes off on the bench. The next season, they bring back the same team, but they move Rodman out. They trade him straight up to the Bulls for Will Perdue. And they're good again. They win. I don't want to mess this up. I think they win 59 games.
It's a lot of games.
So it's a lot of games. So in 95, with Robinson's MVP year, they win 62 games. They lose to the Rockets in the 95 Western Conference Finals. 96, bring back much of the same team. Another good Robinson season, losing 6 to the Jazz. That next season, 1997, Robinson misses the first 18 games with a back injury. And in those first 18 games, the team's struggling. They're like 3-11. What does the GM do? Greg Popovich
Making the call.
makes the call. He goes, Pat Riley on Stan Van Gundy. Except Greg Popovich didn't have the Pat Riley cachet. He was never a coach in the NBA. I think his only coaching experience was Pomona Pitzer. They were a below 500 team. So Greg Popovich comes down from the front office, kicks Bob Hill out, who again 62 wins, then 59 wins, but no playoff success. Couldn't get out of the West. Shortly after coming back, Robinson then gets foot surgery, misses the rest of the season. Tank commander for this one, our guy, we were with him maybe a month ago, Dominique Wilkins, fresh off a championship in Greece, post Achilles tear. Again, who do you bring in? We want to sell tickets. We're bringing Neek down to San Antonio. He still got it. He just won a title in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their tank commander. He plays 31 minutes a night. He averages 18 and 6 on 41% shooting from the field. The Spurs finish with 20 wins. Draft lottery. They win the lottery. What does Rick Pitino for the Celtics do right after them? He calls Greg Popovich, says, let's make a deal. And Pop says, I think I'll hold on to this pick. Because the prize for this pick was Tim Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
You were in college around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an untraditional upbringing, comes from the British Virgin Islands, right? Wake Forest. Is Tim Duncan that surefire of a pick as like a Hakeem Olajuwon? Yeah.
Hell yeah. Tim was putting up like 20 and 20. Like every time you turned on ESPN, his numbers look ridiculous. Almost some shit. You used to be like, well, who is he playing? You know when your numbers look so gaudy and they always hit you with it, well, who is he playing? That he can just keep ripping off 26 and 22 and 6 blocks and 5 assists and all this other shit. So yeah, he was surefire. His demeanor was all that, you know what I mean? Unflappable considering how loud his number was. I mean, if you knew what you was looking at, you knew that man was going to have a successful career in professional basketball. I don't give a damn where he came from.
So they picked Duncan. No thoughts of trading that pick. Despite even having Robinson, they already have a big man. They picked Duncan. But here's where it gets interesting. The next year, 97, so when they have Duncan and Robinson, they start 11-10. And now the calls start coming down about Pop. I'm going to read you a couple excerpts. Mike Lupica, pretty well-renowned author, wrote Travel Team. A lot of people my age have an affinity towards that book. It was like the summer reading book. Anyways, in December 1997, he's a columnist for some paper. He says Greg Popovich, the Spurs coach, shouldn't be anywhere near an NBA coaching job. But somehow he has convinced ownership that he is some sort of genius. Except now he has David Robinson and Tim Duncan and worries they still aren't enough.
Yeah, Delulu don't know what he's talking about. I don't care what his accomplishments were in the journalistic side of things, but he need to let Pop go ahead and pop. That's where Pop is a Hall of Fame coach, and Delulu was on the outside looking in, making popular publications that people your age enjoy.
Is that a nickname already? Delulu?
What was it? What was the man's name?
Mike Lupica.
Close enough. Lupica, Delulu. Yeah.
Off the dome, it's not bad.
Yeah. His name, I didn't like his. I don't know. I didn't like his name off top. Pop is, class act as far as what I'm concerned. I'm just being, former athlete, former member of the association. hats off to Pop for not kicking himself in his own ass out of the door that he has the keys to. Ooh, yeah, I like that one.
That was good.
Sounded good. Yeah.
So when you look back on the Spurs, basically from the time they drafted David Robinson in 1987, that was also like sidetracked. That was another. I was considering that one because he had to do the naval service, so they didn't get him for 2 years. Yeah, but it was still like. And if you even read deeper, like in the Naval Academy, they were replacing like whatever they call the boss of the Navy, and Robinson had a handshake agreement with the guy that used to be there that he didn't have to do the 5 years of service or whatever. And this hard ass came in and tried to. There was a football player at the Navy too, but yeah, they took Rodman and didn't get him for 2 years.
They took
That's
Robinson.
how cold the admiral was. Robinson, yeah, my bad.
Yeah,
Robinson.
Dave wasn't going. Can't try to put Dave down in the sub. You know what I mean? He just came to blow up the Navy program, get you some publicity. You know, y'all want Dave to go out there fighting wars and shit down in the submarine. Nah, man. Get out of here.
Some teams have tanked, for 10 years and can't figure it out. The Spurs from 1987 when they got Robinson to 2019 missed the playoffs 2 times.
Come on, man. I don't even think that's tanking. That's being surgical with this thing, Jake. You know what I mean? Shout out to Denzel and training camp. That's surgical with this thing, Jake. I don't even consider that tanking. I mean, you up. You got the number 1 picks. They up. Their careers go on the Hall of Fame. So you maintain. That's what the number 1 pick's supposed to do in my eyes. If you're the number 1 pick, you should be trending towards a Hall of Fame career. And Pop didn't do nothing but keep them boys right on the track, throw some banners in there, and you know what I mean, make sure they got to wear the jacket.
Do you think Wemby? I was thinking Wemby and Edwards were the 2 guys, from the last 10 years that have a chance to end up in the territory of this list of some of the guys that we're saying, how it's trending. I know it's early.
That's all I got. That's all I got to come to mind.
Next up, LeBron James, 2003. LeBron James. LeBron, 2003. Cavs get the first overall pick. They get the Ohio native. And this is where our guy Jim Paxson comes back.
He's back,
because now he's the general manager of the Cavs. Remember, in Portland, he was the star player of the team that had the chance to get Hakeem or Michael Jordan, but ended up with Sam Bowie. And if you look at Jim Paxson's career as a player, after the Blazers drafted Bowie, his career was never the same. Now, you could say that those 2 things aren't correlated, but that's what it looks like from the outside. So now Paxson is in charge, and he sure is not missing out on arguably the best prospect that basketball has ever seen. So that's the stage for Jim Paxson. He takes over the Cavs GM job in the late 90s. He inherits a fairly hefty Sean Kemp. Our guy, Andre Miller, who's a really, really nice young guard. Lamont Murray, Bob Sura. But in 3 years, he trades everybody. Rips the whole thing down. So in that 2002-03 season, the year before getting LeBron, we got Carlos Boozer, rookie. Good pick.
Yep.
DeJuan Wagner, rookie. Could have been a good pick. Big Z. They trade Andre Miller for Darius Miles. Take a shot on another young kid. And most importantly, our tank commander, friend of the program. And I don't even want to sound disrespectful, sorry, when I say tank commander, but I think Ricky Davis for me is personally the number 1 tank commander. Because he's going to get you 20 a night. He's going to do things like self-oop himself to try and get a triple-double. Mm-hmm. He's going to put his knee in Steve Nash's throat and dunk on him. He's going to keep things exciting. He had his whole section in the arena, fans that would dress up, put afros on, call themselves Ricky's Renegade. So that's what we're looking at with the 2003 Cavs in preparation to hopefully be bad enough to land LeBron James. They start the season 2-17. They finished 17-65. I'm going to read you an excerpt from a Cleveland newspaper in March of 2003, so about a month before that season ends. It's so quiet in the 20,000-seat Gund Arena during the Cavs games that you can almost hear an NBA lottery ping pong ball drop. But not in Section 100, Row 12. That's where Ricky D's Renegades are whooping it up while the NBA's worst team staggers towards another loss down below. Flanked by rows of empty blue seats, the unofficial fan club for Cleveland guard Ricky Davis can be counted on for some fun. Each member paints a letter on his chest, and the group spells out a different message each game. They came out in force weeks ago spelling, "This is Cleveland" last Sunday, but last Sunday, only 6 members showed up for a matinee match against Orlando. They asked Big Z what the low point of the season was. He said the low point, the whole season has been a low point.
He was just, keeping it 100. It's Cleveland. Cleveland wasn't rocking.
So the draft lottery, I think the best thing that came from this, have you seen the video of Jerry West when he was the GM of the Grizzlies and they had a top 1 protected pick? So if the pick fell outside of 1, they would lose it to the Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
Here that video is for everybody that didn't see it.
The second pick goes to the Memphis Grizzlies. And that means that the first pick in the 2003 NBA draft goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Congratulations, Gordon.
So the Cavs get the number 1 overall pick. Jim Paxson gets his guy. He gets LeBron. And you're there for the beginning of that rookie season. And a lot, every year the clip surfaces of them asking, Ricky D, Darius Miles about if they think LeBron's going to be good. Ricky told us that there was no hate in it. What was your observation of LeBron's entrance, the chosen one, into Cleveland? What'd you notice?
Chosen one comes with a lot of baggage. A high school kid coming into that version of the NBA is still some semblance of the 90s NBA that a lot of our fans on Forgotten Seasons come to know and love. So the fact that a high school kid, was going to come in and being from Cleveland, having the extra, weight of being from Cleveland, being from Akron, and being the so-called chosen one at for the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise who was struggling at the time for our identity, you know what I mean? It is what it is, Not a lot of love and light for the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise at the time. So that's why you're in a position of the number 1 pick. And I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think they're wrong in what they said. They was just, that's how veterans were at the time. The league wasn't so much of a young league as what we said. And now there are a lot of veterans that were the glue of the league. And, it was a show me state type of situation where they had to see it first before they just handed over the keys to a teenager into a man's league.
I think that's fair. It's a different league. Couldn't walk in with the TikToks back then.
No, or painting your nails and shit.
All right, moving on. Magic Johnson, the last one that we agree on, 1979. I think this one is a little bit. You don't have to go as deep. It's kind of a lesson in how free agency used to work. So back then in the 70s, if a team signed a player from you, so in this case, the New Orleans Jazz signed Gail Goodrich, who was on the Lakers before the 1977 season. Shout out to him, but this contribution to LA was definitely better than anything he did at UCLA, and I don't know what he did at UCLA, but because the Jazz signed him from the Lakers acquired a future first-round pick from the Jazz. That pick happened to fall 3 years later in 1979. The Jazz ended up being the worst team in the league. That pick turned into number 1. That pick turned into Magic Johnson. The rest is history. So now the one that we disagree on, you have Shaq, I have Iverson. Why don't you give your Shaq diatribe? Number 1 pick in the 1992 draft. I will just mention that the Magic had joined the NBA as an expansion team in 1989.
See what I'm saying?
And their first 3 seasons of existence, 18 and 64, 31 and 51, 21 and 61. And that's what sets them up for the first pick in the 92 draft.
I'm going with Big Fella because, the Magic was just a goofy logo and a name before Shaq got there. You know what I mean? Disney, a lot of gumblings about Disney and, was there the Disney team? There was all those franchise teams. I'll give it another nod for guys that come in as the number 1 pick to a franchise type team. LJ, not too far removed from, Charlotte being the expansion team, Shaq. Shit, I would say Magic, but the Lakers was already cracking at the time. But, LeBron, coming in, having to be the be the number 1 pick like that. But I'm going to give it to Shaq. Because Cleveland was a rebrand, you know what I mean? That when I say LeBron, but I'm gonna give it to Shaq because man, he made the Magic a brand. Although he did ending title runs and it's with the combination of Penny, that was a whole another thing. I know people, no disrespect to Shaq, he could have did it on his own. Having C Webb would have been dope. You know what I mean? We will never know what that looked like, but at the same time, it just so happened that he did get some help with Penny. Considering what he meant to the culture, I mean, that Orlando Magic jersey had no business being as popular that it did when Shaquille O'Neal got there. Then you accompany that with the arrival of Penny Hardaway. That Orlando Magic is embedded, that jersey is embedded in people's mind. He was a number 1 pick, took care of himself, he was available, played hella games, made all-star games. The East was the East. You got Michael Jordan running through there. You got the Knicks.
They beat Jordan.
You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? It is what it is. They did put Mike out when he came back with the 4 or 5. But I'm a little biased. I'm a big dude. I did follow this era very heavy, but it got to be Shaq for me. That area, what he meant for the city. Florida wasn't cracking in basketball then. The Heat weren't the Heat. Those were just 2 expansion teams trying to get by. And I think Shaq held it down for, you know what I mean? What do they call it? The Panhandle? The Panhandle State? Florida.
Maybe.
I think it's the Panhandle. Don't hold it. Don't hold
it. Isn't that Oklahoma?
One of y'all, you know what I mean.
Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments. What's the real Panhandle state?
Help us out here. But yeah, man, it's Shaq was just too important for me. That's my diatribe or pitch for.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. I think you could do that. I wouldn't even be mad if you went with Patrick Ewing.
Hell no.
For the Knicks. In 85, I wouldn't even be that mad if you went David Robinson, Spurs 1987. I'm going to take it one step further. I think there's even an argument for Dwight Howard.
Ooh.
I think this one is just personal preference. I think
it is. You should choose your own adventure on this one. Let us know in the comments. Again, like you said, let us know in the comments.
So for let's let us know in the comments. My last one is Allen Iverson. I think for some of the same reasons that you listed Shaq. I was a guard. We all little guys wanted to be like AI. I think what you said for what he did to the Magic brand and the jersey. I mean, I would put the Shaq Penny pinstripe black Magic jersey right in the same category as
even the
black.
Blue. Don't forget about the blue one.
Yeah, the blue.
Don't forget about the
blue.
Blue.
They had versions. The white one was hard too.
Yep.
And then the Sixers on that same note, they had a couple variations too. They had the black shiny. They had the blue shiny. They had the white. And then just backtracking like what Iverson did to the Sixers. So the Barkley era ends in 1992. They trade him, restock the cupboard. Jeff Hornacek, Andrew Lang, Tim Perry. None of those guys really work out for them. They bottom out, and they get really good draft picks. After bottoming out, 1993 draft, Sean Bradley, number 2 overall.
Big Sean.
Over Penny, Jamal Mashburn, Vin Baker, Allen Houston.
Sounded right at the moment. 7'6", block shots. Yeah, big shot.
94, Sharon Wright.
That's
Number
the homie.
4, ahead of Eddie Jones and Jalen Rose in the lottery. Somewhat defendable. And then 95, this is a friend of the program also. I hate to be that guy, but Jerry Stackhouse, number 3, right ahead of Sheet at number 4 and KG at number 5.
A lot of people are going to disagree with you there, Dylan. Now, in hindsight, right now, what we know,
hindsight's 2020. I understand.
Jerry Stackhouse is the preeminent wing in college basketball at the time.
I understand, but I'm Mr. Hindsight. That's what they call me. Look back in hindsight. So 95, 96, they've got a rookie Stackhouse. This is where good old John Lucas comes back, who was on those Rockets teams with Hakeem and Sampson that went to the finals. He's now the coach and GM of the 76ers. Who does he bring in to surround Jerry Stackhouse, his rookie? Well, another friend of the program, Vernon Maxwell, coming off a 10-game suspension for punching a fan during a playoff game. And then Richard Dumas.
Dumas.
I think him and John might have shared a bunk at the NBA at the offsite. I don't know if and listen, very serious matter. This is nothing personal, but I wonder if the NBA back then, if they had like a getaway, if they invested in some land, maybe out there, and
maybe John's the guy you go to if you got a guy that's up against it, and you think you got some, you got some talent, left in him or something to add to
what's
your franchise.
What's the rehab capital of America? What region? California? Is it California? Is it Southern California? Florida?
Arizona,
I would say.
One of those.
Utah.
When I watch the little show, that's where they be sending them off to at the end. What's the little show? Intervention. Yeah, intervention. That's where they send your ass out to, intervention. Arizona, Florida, California.
So then 96 draft, they go Iverson. What was the conversation like for number 1 that year? Because that's right. Those are your guys. Was it Iverson and Marbury? Was it Steph? Was it Camby?
They had a matchup. Remember, that matchup was electric. Georgia Tech versus Georgetown was electric, fool. That was the shit. I think it was early on, too. It was an early preseason or maybe non-conference league showdown. Steph versus AI was the shit. They both had on some fly Nikes. That was the Kunta, the Georgetown fly shit. That's when Georgia Tech had the fly jerseys, and they was wearing Nike, too. That matchup was electric. Tree was dope down there at UMass, but he had a good team too. Dana Dingle, Bright. He had some. What's the other kid? Edgar Padilla. He had some people. Lou Rowe, coached by. Come on now, Kyler Perry. Yeah, coached by. He was it was the little fellas moment right then. Steph and I had been Nike camp with and around Steph a little bit, and with AI. No, those dudes was the number 1 pick. That was the consensus I was out with. That was what was going on. That was the vibe.
That's dope. I wonder if we're ever going to see a draft again where 2, 6'2" and under guys are the 2 favorites for number 1 overall pick.
Mess along. So. When were we going to see him play in college? That was dope. That was the other dope part of it too. Like a lot of those matchups that we saw play out in the NBA, we saw play out in college, whether that be through the NCAA tournament, in the same leagues. That's a big thing we're missing. And that's where a lot out of college basketball, the death of college basketball, we're also missing a lot of the narrative of which we're looking forward. That's why we put so much emphasis on our younger players for the first 3 years of their careers, because we want them to immediately join the narrative and fit the narrative and the storylines of the NBA. Now, what we're missing through college basketball, with the absence of the importance of college basketball, because the NIL and the variety of other shit, was those storylines were forged in college basketball. From Magic to Bird, to UNLV to Duke to Fab Five to Duke. You know what I mean? When you had a fan base organically with you in the NBA that didn't have nothing to do with no goddamn social media and no Instagram posting. You feel me? So it was easy for me as a viewer, as a fan of the game, to identify and follow the storylines. They're almost better continued and out of the pros from college because they got the other people out the way. Mm-hmm. Right now, you're not in your coach's system. You know, I don't know if you guys remember in North Carolina that you couldn't average 20 points a game in North Carolina. That was the thing. You had to share the sugar. You know what I mean? LJ had to share the stage with Ackles, you know what I mean? Greg Anthony, Stacey Augmon, you know what I mean? The C-Webb, same thing. So when they got the other players out of the way and where other players were allowed to flourish without the LJs, J. Rose, Juwan Howard, whatever that is, you got organic storylines continue and people were allowed to develop within their first couple of years as opposed to if you don't get 20 or 10, we're done with you. Now,
Bars.
That's a deep cut for your ass, you know what I mean? And that's what we do here, Dylan. So that's what, that's a lot of what we're missing, where that's not fair for the young players. You know, they're coming into a lot of money and they don't have the ass. Their checks can't cash on what their body of work.
No, it's true.
High school, 4 months of college basketball, you're probably not ready, at the end of the day. So... And you grit your teeth in college. Not to cut you off, I'm sorry, Dylan, but you grit your teeth in college. You don't have to do load management when you play in college, you know what I mean, against for 3 or 4 years. You're building yourself up at the proper way. You're not playing 82 games. Might play 30. There's a big fucking difference between 82 and 30 and asking a 19-year-old to do so. That's just my little deep cut spiel here on,
No, it's good.
And this number one talk.
I think my biggest thing is, like the way it's shifted now with NIL. I think the people that have the most swing in it now are not basketball people, and they're not making those moves and pulling those strings in the best interest of, the player's basketball career or the sport. I think say what you want about some of those old school guys like a Sonny Vaccaro or some other guys, the guys with the most pull back then, even the guys that were tied up in that FBI allegation, I would even say. I think that might have been the start of it, but those dudes were all like basketball dudes, like came up.
Real ones.
Real like basketball dudes. So
yeah,
I think that's the shame of now, and props to all the players that are making millions of dollars at 18 years old, because that's a beautiful thing. But, I don't know. I feel like with a lot of these things, we're going to look back in 10, 20 years and go, ooh. Whoa.
Yeah, and I feel that's important context due to the correlation of the number one pick. We have heard he's the number one pick, and then he flamed out. You know what I mean? Then they talk bad about you, whether it be for injury. Maybe it's because you really weren't that guy, and somebody in the front office had a big, bright idea of making you the number one pick based on, the people that they hired to make these decisions. But, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? You can't blame the youth always. And in this case, as it pertains to the number one pick, I think that's some hell of a context.
Yeah. So that's Iverson. A year after his rookie year, they bring in Larry Brown as GM and head coach. He gets Stackhouse out of there. Maybe teaches AI a little bit something about life and how to carry himself.
Ish. Yeah, Coach Thompson. Thompson.
You're right.
See, that's another thing. That's another thing. Don't y'all start this shit, Larry. Larry Brown is a tremendous coach. He added great value.
I got to be careful. I got to be careful complimenting Larry Brown around you.
But I'm just saying. But let's just be honest, though, Dylan. Allen Iverson, yet he was the unrefined product that he was. He was not that far away from zero by the time Larry Brown got to him. All right. No. John Thompson was a man. We've known his accolades of how we've poured into young men, even some of those who didn't make it to the number one pick. So, you know what I mean? I just want to remind people, Allen Iverson was not an accident by the time he got to Larry Brown. Yes, LB did a good job of managing him and making sure he was able to get the most out of that frame, but no freaky. But, you know what I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Coach Thompson as a major reason why Allen Iverson was a success.
Well, the combination of John Thompson and Larry Brown pours into Allen Iverson, worked out. He brings the Sixers to the finals, 7 All-Star games, 4 scoring titles as a 76er. So that wraps up the list. I want to end. You might have already shoot in Elvin Hayes as your GOAT tank commander. I want to quickly shout out a couple others that didn't make the list, but I think are worthy of discussion. In the comments, let us know if we missed anybody. There's been a lot of tank commanders, maybe ones that just didn't work out. The team missed the pick. We forgot about them. I'm going to mention Swaggy P, Nick Young, in those post-Kobe Lakers teams. He birthed a couple great memes that will live for existence. Tony Roten. Process Sixers. Playing 30 minutes a night. That helped them get Simmons and Fultz. So, yeah, we got, from the list that we went over, we got 37-year-old Dominique Wilkins, 37-year-old Elvin Hayes, Ricky Davis, and the Vernon Maxwell, Richard Dumas, 2 for 1. I am going to go... I want to go Ricky Davis. The Elvin Hayes thing is just so good.
But you're gonna go Elvin?
No, I'm gonna go Ricky Davis.
Tyree hey, I'm gonna go Tyree too because he used to be with No Limits Agency. He was a legitimate tank commander when Master P was his agent. So
Ricky Davis?
That's fair. Ricky Davis was with Master P in No Limit Agency along with Ricky Williams. So in all fairness and because of the serendipity, I'm gonna name Tyree Davis as my tank commander as well.
And again, this is not a diss. If you have nothing, you're a coach. Or sorry, you're an owner or the president of sales for a team. You got no talent. How the hell are we gonna get people to buy tickets and spend their evening?
Sure as hell ain't gonna be homegirl on the bike with all the plates and shit. We can't roll her up 41 nights out of the year. We gotta have some other product in there.
Red Panda.
Yeah. We gotta, there's only so many what do you call those, nonprofit and choir singers that we can roll out. Yeah,
acts. You can only do so many. What did they did? The Chick-fil-A missed 2 free throws. Get yourself Ricky Davis. Listen, the fans are gonna love him. They're gonna dress up like him. He's gonna put you on SportsCenter, maybe number 1 a couple times. And, you guys aren't going to win that many games. So I think that's a fitting ending. Friend of the program. I think that was our first episode that we did together. I would love to have him back on, too. I miss Ricky Davis.
We got to tap in and see what's going on with Ricky Davis.
I feel like we kind of got to him. We kind of uncovered it, but I know that there's another level to Ricky Davis that might not be safe for the viewing audience.
Gotta keep a job. I think he's a coach. Gotta keep a job. Be in front of the children a lot. You gotta watch your tongue.
But anyway, man, that was this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments. I know we asked you guys a few things. Keep engaging with us. We're gonna respond. We're gonna get to it. And man, we appreciate the support. Thank you guys so much for watching. I think we're at 10,000 subscribers now, which was our goal at the beginning of the season. So that was
appreciate
cool.
Y'all.
J-Mac, I appreciate you, man. This has been a lot of fun. And I think we're going to keep these going. Hope you guys enjoy these guest list episodes. I think they seem fun and this was easy.
Do your thing. We'll be back with another one even better.
Yes, sir.